Hello once again, and Tony here with a review of Richard Strauss's Salome with conductor Charles Dutoit, which was live from the Verbier Festival. I was looking forward to this particular concert version of Richard Strauss's Salome because it had a pretty promising cast headed by Gun-Brit Barkmin in the title role, which I will gladly talk about her performance right now. Now, Gun-Brit Barkmin has been a soprano I have mainly known through name and repertoire. What I noticed about her repertoire is that she sings a lot of roles from the spinto and the dramatic soprano repertoires, mostly specializing in the dramatic roles of Chrysothemis from Elektra, Ariadne from Ariadne auf Naxos, and her recent engagements as Isolde from Tristan und Isolde. And even before all that, she even sang roles like Mimi from La Bohème and Rosalinde from Die Fledermaus, before heading on to meteor roles like Salome, Chrysothemis, Ariadne, Sieglinde, Elsa, and her recent engagement as Isolde. When I heard her sing this particular role, I was completely amazed at how much she managed to really emote from her system, not only embodying the titular heroine, but also living this particular role even though it was a concert version. She made Salome quite innocent and curious, yet kind of perverse in the first moments of the opera, but in the final moments with her closing scene, she made her obsessive and extremely depraved, thus proving her prowess as a fine singing actress. And her vocal resources were at their absolute prime in this particular role. She managed to hit all of her notes exceptionally, whether it be the brilliant high notes or the chesty low notes. She managed to hit every single note with finesse, and she's a very gorgeous figure on stage. With her bob hairdo and her sleek figure, she managed to embody the role of Salome to the best of her abilities. Then we go to Egils Silens, who sang the role of Johanna An, who had a very strong bass baritone voice, and even though it does tend to be woolly, it still manages to have that strength in the lower register, and his stage presence was tall and handsome. He managed to make Johanna An a pretty powerful person, though at the same time someone who is quite wise and someone who is very much aware of the deeds, or more appropriately, misdeeds, that both Herodes and Herodias have done, and what Salome might end up doing to him. He embodied the role of Johanna An with a very strong stage presence, and even though his bass baritone voice does tend to be a bit on the woolly side with how he projected, he managed to really give the goods with this particular role, and he managed to make the best out of this superb character role. Then we have Gerhard Siegel's superbly acted and superbly sung Herodes, and I can definitely tell that he was having a ball with this particular role. He's been singing this role for a great amount of time. I would say he's been singing this for many years in a lot of different opera houses. And what's also very interesting about Gerhard Siegel is that he not only specializes in a lot of the character tenor repertoires these days, but he also specialized in the spinto, dramatic, and Heldentenor repertoire. He not only sang roles like Herodes and Mime, which he's been doing these days, but he's been singing roles like Tristan, Lohengrin, Canio, and even a Tannhäuser as well, thus proving himself not only to be a strong singer thanks to his powerful, piercing, spinto slash character tenor slash dramatic slash Heldentenor voice, which he managed to make everything ring and ping, and also managed to make a great use of the Sprechstimme, but he also managed to embody Herodes's neurosis really well, as he's been a veteran with this particular role. So I'm not going to mince words here. Gerhard Ziegel really does a great job in injecting Herodes with the necessary amount of neurosis, but also ensuring that he has to sing this particular part and also act and live this particular role. Jane Henschel as Herodias was an absolute riot. She pretty much stole the show in this particular role. First of all, I have to say that I am a major fan of Madame Jane Henschel. I have been following her career for quite some time, and I first heard about her ever since I was about 12 years old, and she sung the role of Mistress Quickly from Giuseppe Verdi's Falstaff, in which I did not see her in that particular role as she performed it in Los Angeles, and I was currently living in Cebu at the time. And as I heard a few clips of her singing the roles of Clytemnestra from Richard Strauss's Elektra, and even that of the nurse from Die Frau ohne Schatten, and a lot of other roles tailor-made for this particular dramatic mezzo contralto, I fell in love with everything she did. First of all, she managed to be a great singing actress. She really knew how to get in the mind of a character like Herodias and provide her with the great amount of cattiness and the great amount of venom that she provided with this particular character. And I can definitely tell that Madame Henschel had a lot of fun singing the role of this particular Harridan. Her cackles, her screams, and how she managed to produce all of her notes just goes to show how much of a great singing actress Madame Jane Henschel is. And for someone who is currently in her 60s, her voice is still at her absolute prime. It still has that freshness of a true dramatic mezzo contralto with all of the great piercing high notes and some chesty low notes, which she managed to emit very well. And she was simply put a charismatic, lively actress on the stage, and she embodied her role wonderfully with a great amount of hysteria, and she just had a rollickingly great time. Andrew Staples was a fine Nottabolt. I have never heard about this particular lyric tenor until I heard him sing, and he had a very fine voice. However, it's sort of a voice that's kind of typical when it comes to lyric tenors. That's not to say that Mr. Staples is a bad singer. In fact, Mr. Staples is quite wonderful and really solid as a singer. It's just that I've heard voices like his in a lot of, let's say, German lyric tenors like Fritz Wunderlich or even that of Waldemar Kment, and his voice doesn't really stand out too much. However, he has great musicianship, he has a fine timbre, and he also has a sturdy stage presence singing the role of this youthful captain of the guards, Nottabolt. He managed to make him rather tall in his appearance, quite dashing, and quite alluring to look at on stage. He was quite charismatic as well, and it also helped that he was quite charming to look at with his youthful countenance, his tall and sleek physique on stage, and how he managed to produce his notes really well. Then we go to a young mezzo-soprano whose career continues to blossom, and her name is Idunu Munch, as she sang the role of the page. She has a gorgeous timbre, and she has a fine stage presence, and on top of that, she has a beautiful future ahead of her. I cannot wait to hear a lot more of this stunning young mezzo. She has a bright future, and as I heard her sing the role of the page boy, I can definitely tell that's a great voice in the making right there. We even had such superb singing from the likes of Pavel Konix and Julian von Mellert's first and second soldiers and Nazarenes, as their voices blended pretty well, with Pavel Konix's finely tuned bass baritone voice and Julian van Mellart's slightly lyrical baritone voice. I could definitely tell that these two gentlemen have a bright future in a lot of the opera stages. And we even have the major treat of the five Jews, who were sung by Rowan Hutter, Marcel Ryans, Mark Omfley, Patrick Vogel, and Alexander Vasilyev, whose voices blended superbly and who managed to make these roles just burst out with not only pure enthusiasm and a lot of rollickingly fun moments thanks to their hysteria, but also great musicianship from all five gentlemen. And we also have Jasper Lever's superb sounding Cappadocian and Satria Krishna's finely tuned Slave Boy. So overall, the singing found in this particular concert version of Richard Strauss's Salome was superb. And special kudos has to go to the leading players of Gun-Brit Barkmin's Salome, Gerhard Ziegel's Herodes, Jane Henschel's Herodias, Egils Zielen's Johanna An, Andrew Staples' Narabot, and of course, Idunu Munch's Page Boy. And the conducting done by Charles Dutoit was superb. He made sure that the orchestra and the singers went together with such finesse and with such tact, and he was a meticulous conductor. So overall, with such fine soloists headed by Madame Gun-Brit Barkmin as Salome, and a great conductor like Charles Dutoit, this particular concert version of Richard Strauss's Salome was quite the blast. And for those of you who caught this concert version of Richard Strauss's Salome, what did you think of it? Did you feel like Gun-Brit Barkmin really carried the show in one piece and not only stole the show in this particular role? Did you feel like there was another singer who kind of stole Gun-Brit Barkmin's thunder? Or did you feel like the whole affair just didn't work out too well? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for my review of Bellini's La Sonnambula, live from the Vienna State Opera House, starring Daniela Fali and Juan Diego Flores as Amina and Elvina respectively. So until then, good night everybody and have a great summer.